I'm Michelle Perry, and I'm inviting some of my favorite chefs over to build a Low Country Juneteenth, the celebration of freedom and heritage. Today I've invited Gina Willis over to cook up a coastal classic for my Juneteenth menu. Juneteenth is a commemoration of the announcement of emancipation in Galveston, Texas on June 19, 1865. 2 years, 6.5 months after the Emancipation Proclamation. Many communities adopted Juneteenth and added their own freedom celebration traditions. And no celebration is complete without food. Gina, thanks so much for coming over. I'm so excited for you to make this dish and that you put together this recipe for the Juneteenth menu. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you're making?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. We're gonna have some southern fried fish. I'm gonna use whiting because, you know, in Savannah, South Carolina, we love whiting and mullet. This is one of the go-to dishes that I use when I have family and friends over, and especially for cookouts. I'm also gonna fry some cabbage and some collard greens. My grandparents, they had a club, and it was a restaurant on Wilmington Island. Probably for about 60 years, they would have big fish fries, especially like with family reunions. A lot of churches would come out there. It's just important that we carry these traditions on.
I think that actually is a very common theme amongst a lot of women in the Low Country, owning hospitality businesses, cooking and fishing, and making it work for a family and for their own careers as well, which I think is a pretty cool story to tell.
I like to dump my dry ingredients into the pan first, so that way when I get ready to coat the fish, it's easier. All right, we're all set. All we need to do is grab the fish. You see, I have fish with the tails just for you.
Yes, perfect. I have to have the fish tail.
Because that's the best part.
It is. The little crunches and then like the flour on the inside. So the meat is just like kind of there for just the taste, but it's actually the breading and the ends that are, to me, the best.
Well, I'm gonna make this one a little spicy just because I like to kick it up a notch. And it seems like when I use the hot sauce, it really makes the batter adhere to it better. Go ahead and coat 2 pieces of fish, add a couple of drops of the hot sauce, front and back. And I'll go ahead and start dredging it through the cornmeal. Everything is coated, getting up under those fins. I know you know about the old-fashioned thing.
Yep.
Throw in some cornmeal. You see that pretty sizzle? That means we're ready to go. So we put it in easy with the back down first, 2 at a time, because you don't want to crowd the pan. That cuts the temp down. Do you see those little pretty flakes of that cornmeal coming up?
I do.
And the edges around the fish are brown. That's when you know to start flipping. Put it on a wire rack versus a paper towel because I want it to drain and I don't want that paper towel to take some of the skin and stuff.
Now, a lot of people think when you're doing Juneteenth, you should do barbecue heavy. Why do you think that this is a good addition to a Juneteenth menu as well?
Fish was so readily available to us. I mean, you were able to fish, you were able to crab and shrimp, so we basically cooked what was available.
I also think it's a good connection to Galveston and the history of Galveston and the coast of Texas as well. That's where I think the holiday means so much to me, of having that island connection and coastal connection.
Oh, you see those nice bones? Yes. Well, these look great, and now it's time to fry the cabbage and collards. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. I do want to talk about these greens. I like to take them, and you start from the end, kind of slit it down a little bit. A lot of people are kind of funny about the stems, but actually that's where a lot of your vitamins are. And these are just so beautiful. We take it, I roll mine as well after they've been washed thoroughly. Cut them in strips, little ribbons, not too small. We're gonna add the bacon to the pan. I like my bacon to be nice and crisp. When you start seeing this pan get brown like that, that's when you know the flavor is just gonna take over. I've taken out the bacon, see it's a nice pretty color. I'm gonna put the bell pepper in, onions in, and we're gonna saute these. So you see all of that good brown, those are the renderings, that's what gives you flavor. My bell pepper and onion, they're nice and soft, so I'm gonna start adding these collards. Just add enough for the color, just get that snap. So we're gonna start adding our cabbage. I did make a little chow chow, you know, which is the tomatoes, onions, bell pepper, hot sauce, vinegar. It's just something else to add on top of, you know, collards and the cabbage.
It was really important to me that we have a greens dish. We have to have a prosperity dish on the menu. I can think of Juneteenth, I can think of New Year's, many different holidays where greens are on the menu.
Michelle, you're gonna know this is done when you have this texture. You see how nice and soft that is? And just wait till we put the chow chow on top.
I cannot wait. We've worked really hard, mostly you, and I think we should sit down and try these.
Well, let's do that. You see the texture on that fish? I'm not saying it's good because I made it, but it really is good.
I think so.
Crunchy, but the meat is still soft and tender. Those greens and collards and cabbage.
Just the right amount of crunch.
You have just a little bit of history in a bowl that tastes good and that pretty much everybody will enjoy.